Happy summer, everyone. I just finished the 2017-2018 school year, and I do teach middle school music, and we have incorporated ukulele. So a friend of mine locally in the Twin Cities here sent me a message on Ukulele Underground and said, you need to check out this ukulele. It's showing up for $17 on Walmart.com. And I can be a sucker for a cheap ukulele, I guess. Last year, let me get this one. Last year, this Camp ukulele, you can see the review of it in my blog and YouTube elsewhere, was on sale for about $20 with a really nice case and a bunch of accessories, and it's really a solid instrument made of HPL, very similar to Martin. It has a radius fretboard, which means the fretboard actually has a radius to it, and it's been a wonderful instrument. I went out to Los Angeles to go to the ukulele festival out there, and this fit into my bag at Spirit, although I do have some Sopranissimos now that I can bring with me too. But that was a $20 ukulele, one-time deal. They sold out of them, and now they're about $95. I'd still recommend it as an instrument. It's not bad for $95 either, but you can't get it for that anymore. And I keep looking for special deals. And this one came to my attention from my friend Tracy here in the Twin Cities. And she said, hey, check this one out. It's the Sawtooth Pineapple Soprano ukulele. And I don't know if they're still available on Walmart.com. You have to look up Sawtooth tenor mahogany ukulele, and then one of the options was pineapple shape. And it was listed for $17.08, and by the time that I put it in the cart and have to pay, in this case I picked it up in Minnesota even though I live in Wisconsin, have to pay with Minnesota sales tax of 7.5 or 7.75 or whatever it is percent. It ended up being $18.28 for this ukulele. It came, about that bump the setup here, it came generally in tune, only in a box and then another sub box, kind of like ordering a ukulele off of Amazon, which isn't exactly recommended. I would almost always suggest that you buy from someone that will set up the ukulele for you, but this one came, it's set up decently. The action is decent at the nut. When basically what you can do is you press your ukulele down at the 3rd fret, and you should only see a little bit of light between the string and the fret. I could take them down a little bit, but I'm not going to worry about it for a $17 ukulele. And then of course the action at the 12th fret should be somewhere between 2.5 and 3 millimeters, and they actually sell something called a string action gauge, and I haven't tested this one yet, but I can just see after playing a lot of ukuleles in the last 3 years that its action is good. Now I could bring it down a little bit more if I'd like a little bit of a even a lower playing experience, but again, for a $17 ukulele, it's good. Now it's not unattractive. It's a very standard laminate. Now again, what a laminate is means that the company has bought wood that is layered and glued together. Sometimes it's solid wood of a certain type, sometimes it's a mixture of wood, and then there's a top piece that actually might be the wood itself, but shaved really, really thin, glued on the very, very top. So when you look at a ukulele, if they paint them, you can't tell, but if they paint them, generally it's a laminate ukulele. But there's like a little sandwich board effect, and it's very thin laminate on this Sawtooth. It's very resonant, so I'm not upset about that. The finish is kind of a satin finish, and there are some weird like bumps. It's not tactily very clean. The interior looks okay. I mean, I don't see many glue spots. You can see the bracing. Purfling on the inside of the ukulele. The kerfling is what you get on the outside edge of a binding. I misrecorded on a video yesterday. It's okay, kerfling, whatever. But the purfling is the material that they use around the corners of the ukulele is notched, which is very common. Some cheaper ukuleles will just do a solid strip. It doesn't really impact the ukulele at all. And in fact, my friends at Bonanza Ukulele actually cut the top and bottom out of an entire piece of wood, and that piece of wood actually is CNC'd with the purfling as part of the integral part of the instrument. So it's a support piece, and then there's bracing that goes across, and I can't see the other bracing in it, but I know it has a bottom piece and tail piece. Oh, and did you see that? That's the one blemish for a $17 ukulele, is this rather unattractive nut or burn in the bottom of the ukulele. Why you would ever use that, I don't know, because it doesn't appear anywhere else in the pattern. Looks like a mahogany or mahogany substitute neck. There are joints. You can see the joint there. You can see the joint there. And standard tuners with really large knobs and kind of an attractive headstock. It's nice to have something different. And it says that it comes with Aquila Super Nylgut strings. Now, what I find is that laminate ukuleles often have a boxier tone than a wood ukulele. And for that, Aquila strings are the standard in the world for, if you buy a ukulele now, you get Aquila strings because they stand for quality, and they do. I'm just not a big fan of them. I'm not a big fan of how they feel, these Super Nylguts. Aquila has a brand new product called Sugar Strings, which are more like a fluorocarbon, and I tend to be a fluorocarbon player. I like fluorocarbon strings. So I will either put Aquila Sugar Strings on this instrument or go out and buy some cheap Martin 600s, which are available almost everywhere. Go to your local guitar center and buy them there. It has front dots, which again, if you talk to ukulele players, eventually you stop looking at the front of your instrument. When you're beginning, you're going, okay, fret 1, 2, 3, and you're counting down. But down the road, you just start to get used to that. And if you're a person that has bigger hands, I would suggest you, honestly, think about getting a soprano scale instrument or a sopranissimo instrument, because as you are forced into those uncomfortable positions of a smaller fretboard, you actually end up building dexterity in your hands that will transfer onto your larger instrument. So I do think that even if you're a tenor player, it's really beneficial to have a smaller instrument that you can travel with much easier, although any ukulele is easy to travel with, but one that you could even throw into a backpack or something like that. So just something to keep in mind. It might be worth buying a cheap, almost throwaway instrument just so you can have something to play when you're bored, drag along with you easy, throw in the car. Again, you wouldn't want to leave this in the car because heat does not do good things to wood instruments in a car. A couple of years ago, I left a six-pack or bottles of Coke Zero in my car here in Wisconsin when it got super hot out, and I came to a back of my trunk that had exploded with pop all over. You wouldn't want that with a ukulele either, although you can buy something like an outdoor ukulele, particularly outdoor ukulele, that's designed to survive in that environment. So if you have to leave an instrument in your car, maybe look in an outdoor ukulele, but otherwise, you know what I'm saying. So $17 instrument. Let's see, the real big thing for me with this instrument and the real negative are the frets themselves, and they actually are very sharp, which tells me that this instrument was stored in a place without any consideration of humidity, and the fretboard also looks very, very dry. So when I change strings, I'm going to take my lemon oil. I would suggest either the STUMAC lemon oil or the Dunlop 65. Both you can order off online or check with your local music store. They might not be able to get STUMAC, but certainly the Dunlop 65 lemon oil. And that lemon oil you put on your fretboard, and you don't need a lot, but it will condition your fretboard, and every time you change strings, use some more of that lemon oil on the fretboard. If you get it on the body of the instrument, well, it's not going to hurt anything, but it will get oil everywhere, and then you find yourself having to rub it everywhere. So just, be a little bit cautious as you do it. But anyhow, these fret edges are really sharp. Now, I'm going to get closer to the microphone here. I'm going to see if you can hear. Can you hear that rubbing? That's me just running my fingers up and down the sides of the ukulele, not like the edges. So you could, on any instrument, run your finger up and down, but if you're running up and down the sides, you shouldn't hear that. And that's how it feels when you play it. It doesn't hurt. It's not to the point of saying, ouch. I've played instruments that are like that. There's actually a couple brands now that I actually could say, I'm not going to say them, but there are two brands that I would just caution to people. And in fact, in my last video I just submitted where I took a trip to Growth Music and showed what they had in stock. One of the two brands is like, oh my, I can't believe that they'd actually sell an instrument in this condition. And that's not just Growth, it's the company itself should be sending them better prepared than that. That's part of the finishing package. So how does it sound? Well, let's show you. And again, these are Aquila strings, which will make this instrument just a little more boxy. The pineapple shape has, I believe, and I could be proven wrong, I think it has a little more surface area, and I think it was Kamaka that came up with the original pineapple shape. So it's interesting because Hawaii is one of the places where pineapples are grown, but it's considered kind of not your traditional ukulele double bout shape, and that's where you have the top bout and the bottom bout, and it's that almost like figure 8 shape, but it's a pineapple shape. So it's got some volume, and again, it's a Sawtooth, and this was a $17 instrument. So I just tuned it. Let's see how it's doing. Yeah, not bad. It came generally in tune. Maybe it's somebody had also bought it and returned it because of that deal, but that doesn't bother me. I'll be putting in a strap pin there and a strap pin up here later on when I change the strings on it. But let's just do a little bit of playing around. Just some normal chords. Not bad. And I will pull out my Rode 2 tuner. Right now that's what I'm using to tune most of my instruments, and yes, I can tune by ear if I need to. That would be based off of whatever your lowest note is and then tuning up. But the Rode 2 is nice because you don't really have to think about what you're doing when you're tuning. If you only have one ukulele, the Rode 2 doesn't make a lot of sense, but when you start developing your own little armada of ukuleles, and unfortunately, like I said, I'm kind of a sucker for cheap ukuleles, just seeing what's out there and just having them. It's kind of fun to just have them. But if you have one of those ukuleles, this is kind of fun to do. The Rode 2 is really nice, and then you can set up different settings. So I have an 8-string that makes tuning that 8-string so much easier than trying to do it by hand. And you don't have to think about what you're doing when you tune it. As a teacher, that's awesome, because you can take a ukulele from a kid, tune it up while you give them another one, and not even have to be paying attention to what you're doing, and the instrument is in tune. Now, it's also worth checking out harmonics on an instrument. You should visually check if there is less space between the 1st fret and the 2nd fret, which I've seen before. Don't get the ukulele, because by definition, every fret should be closer together as you go down the fretboard. Now at the 12th string, there should be a natural harmonic, where again a harmonic is basically dividing the string in half, and when you just simply stop the node of the string without pressing down on it, it should play an octave higher than what it's supposed to do. That's what a harmonic is. Those occur naturally on the ukulele at the 12th, 7th, and 5th fret. So here's at the 12th fret. Okay, that pop out. How about the 7? Not bad at all. How about the 5th? So I'm getting harmonics pretty easily on this instrument, so that's pretty impressive as it goes. Let's see, a couple more other little songs. How about, I'll probably mess it up, but that's okay. Or Barry Maz's intro songs. It's going out of tune already again, brand new strings. It's been stretched out for a day, but still not enough. Or now, to compare that to my other $20 ukulele, both are soprano scale. This one by far is the better instrument, let's be honest. This one I think at full price is selling for about $35 or $40 at the most, the Sawtooth. This Enya is selling for $95. This one is much more of quality of instrument, is way higher. But you're not going to find this one for $20 anymore. So here is the Sawtooth, just open C6. And here is the Enya. And again, the Enya has Martin fluorocarbons on it. Doesn't have its original awful Enya strings on it. That's the one negative Enya, because you replace the strings right away. And this is the Sawtooth. Now, the Aquila strings make it a little louder, but the body makes it a little bit louder. And of course, the Enya is a soft instrument to start off with. Now, I don't know how much longer these will be on sale, how many will be available at walmart.com for $17.07, but with all sincerity, I think you could go way more wrong for an instrument just to have around that could be abused. If you need an instrument for a kid that's learning and you're afraid of them going to break the instrument, you're not going to get a much better deal than that for an instrument that if they break it, you're not going to lose your mind. You're not going to buy that child a kamaka. Maybe if you live in Hawaii and you're a native Hawaiian, maybe you would buy that because that's what they start on. I don't think they all do, but I certainly have heard stories that they do. Families pass down old kamakas, and again, some really nice things here, some really unfortunate things. Again, finish isn't totally great. That blotch on the bottom, the sharp fret edges show kind of some, some lack of care either in the storage shipment of the instrument, and then of course a really, really dry fretboard. Really big, goofy end tuners on that instrument, but it's not worth replacing the tuners because it would cost you more to replace the tuners than it would to just simply buy a much better instrument. So this is the Sawtooth. The actual designation is STUKEMPS, and I will try to put a link to this instrument on this video where it is available at walmart.com. Again, generally, if you're going to buy an instrument, buy it from a dealer who will do the setup for you, and have fun playing. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.